Welcome back everyone to another video, and in this one we'll be taking a look at the Ubuntu 17.10 release. Now previously I've never done a video particularly on an Ubuntu release, but this is a very interesting one. In this one, Ubuntu basically goes ahead and scraps their Unity and Mir display technologies and user interface and ends up with adopting the open source sort of standard right here of Wayland X and GNOME 3. But Ubuntu has done some really interesting things with GNOME. It is not stock GNOME that is used on OSs like Fedora, and have been using Fedora for quite a while now, approximately over 2 years. So I've been quite used to the GNOME experience. So let's go ahead and take a look at what's different with GNOME in Ubuntu 17.10. And of course I have also been using Ubuntu for a very long time now, since 8th grade, and that is by that time I think it was running Unity 2D, and then they later shifted to Unity 3D with uh, Compiz uh, acceleration or something. We'll go ahead and try Ubuntu right here, and of course this is live boot on a VM, so don't expect it to be very heavy on animations. And honestly it actually works a bit more fluid than if I go ahead and install it. Booting on, we do see a familiar Ubuntu like desktop environment, although looking closer it's much different. Now the taskbar on the left corner right here does look pretty similar, but it is missing the Ubuntu logo up top, which used to act as the applications menu button, which has been moved down bottom in the form of 3 by 3 dots. So show applications, we click that and we get our familiar GNOME 3 like application list, where we can scroll through all the applications that are present, and of course select anyone to use it. Coming to that, first we'll take a look at the top bar right here. So our status bar, which shows our clock, and this is very similar to what we see on the GNOME 3, on the default GNOME 3. And then looks like we have some more settings on the right corner. Let's open up Firefox and see some more changes. Now of course the top on the top bar here you can see the Firefox task, and it is very similar to what you would see on GNOME 3, but what is not similar is the title bar here. So the title bar on the Firefox application is the same as you would see on a regular Ubuntu installation, and it does have your close, maximize and minimize buttons right on there. So now the thing I don't like with GNOME 3, even after using it for so long, is that it doesn't have the minimize and maximize button. Rather you have to go ahead and click and right click on the title bar to select minimize or maximize. I'm not a very big fan of that, but Ubuntu maintained the standard, and they went on uh, with the three buttons on the right corner. So that I like a lot, and then I can always double click and double click back to minimize and maximize, or use these buttons and then I can minimize it to our applications. So again, going back to the show application here, and here you can access the Firefox. But then let's open up Nautilus file manager and see what has changed, which is not so much when you first look at it, because they have really done a great job maintaining the Ubuntu aesthetics here. But if you see, we now have our folder list or our directories on the title bar, which were not there on a regular Ubuntu installation. They would have been on a separate bar just below the title bar, but this is more like a default GNOME behavior for Nautilus, and that's how it is. They maintained it in Ubuntu 17.10. The third thing that I wanted to test was first if it's running Wayland right now, which I do think it is. So the one way to check it as open system monitor, go ahead and select all processes, and it does not seem to be running Wayland at the moment. Maybe that's because I am running it on a VM. But the issue with Wayland is you cannot run apps on sudo or GUI apps on sudo. That prevent Wayland prevents them from getting the display configuration, so they don't really work. They end up crashing. Anyways, with that said, this was a small look at Ubuntu 17.10. It is very, very refreshing. I always sort of wanted Ubuntu to fall back to GNOME at some point, and they did do a pretty good job at it. My only gripe with GNOME 3 always has been with the omission of the minimize and maximize buttons on the title bar, which Ubuntu has corrected, and then they have also removed the gestures. So if you are an old time Ubuntu user, you shouldn't have too much trouble adjusting to this new user interface. With that said, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I know it has been a long time since I've made one. I'll try to be a bit more regular on the channel. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.